Okay, this morning I was talking to Bjorn and Brother Bjorn and says, well, every time we come, we talk about the Dhamma. So today we relax a bit. We relax by sharing some, trips that we have taken, some projects that we have underwrite in order to practice what we call compassion, 慈悲心, right? And we always talk about compassion, and which is actually one of the max practice that is encouraged among Buddhists. But sometimes to a certain extent, we have compassion which are only ad hoc. Ad hoc means on certain days when we heard about compassion, then we think, yes, I must be compassionate, I must do some compassionate actions. And probably there is only a day, on one particular day, that we do it. So it becomes very ad hoc. Compassion, it should be a sort of permanent or cultivated involvement. In other words, you do it over a period of time. Then only that compassion becomes meaningful. That compassion becomes inculcated into our mental frame of minds. Otherwise, it's on a Vesak day, I have to be compassionate because it's a Vesak day. Then on that day, you take a lot of coins and go and give to all the people lining on the streets. Or you go and buy a lot of food in order to go and do dana. But on other days, you forgot to be compassionate. So you're only compassionate for one day. So it's important that when we practice the 4 Brahma Viharas, we have to have compassion over a longer period of time. This picture actually was from an event that we held back in I think this was in 2014. It was a very old event. And we held it together with the Buddhist Gem Fellowship and the what do you say there? Malaysia, can't see. Malaysian Desk for Ladakh. Malaysian Desk for Ladakh. This event was also to try and raise funds in order to build a hostel in the city of Chandigarh. Chandigarh is actually in Punjab, not in Ladakh. What happened is those students who are actually studying in Himalayas, after they reached year 12, they have to move on to university. And in Ladakh, they don't have a university. So they have to either go to Punjab or to Delhi, or to other big cities like Calcutta and Amritsar and so on. So in this case now, they wanted to build a hostel so that the children from Mahabodhi will be able to migrate from Ladakh to Punjab, which is Chandigarh. Chandigarh is actually a very beautiful city, very well organized, and it's also an educational city, a lot of universities there. So this event was a dinner held in Sunway Convention Center, and we managed to raise about 500,000. So it was quite a lot of money, enough to build one building which can accommodate about 100 students. So India construction is not very expensive, it's quite cheap. So we call it Compassion in Action, Transforming Lives in the Himalayas. And it was a very successful event. And the person you see, the Bante, is actually a Theravada monk who set up a center called the Mahabodhi International Meditation Center in Ladakh itself, because he himself is a Ladakhi. Ladakhi means a native tribe in the Himalayas. But he renounced and became a monk in the city of Bangalore. Bangalore is in the South India. And he was actually trained under the preceptorship of Venerable Buddharakita. Buddharakita is a Sri Lankan monk who moved on from Sri Lanka to Bangalore to set up what we call the Mahabodhi Buddhist center. So he was trained there, and eventually he became a very senior monk in Mahabodhi, Bangalore. And he was actually tipped to be the next abbot or the next chief priest in Bangalore itself. But he chose to go back to Ladakh, his home country, in order to start some charity project. And he then moved on to Ladakh back in 1990. And it was in 1990 that I got to know him. You see his features, he's neither Indian nor Chinese. But in Himalayas, the people there are a little bit more like Tibetans. But they are Indian national. That means to say they live on this side of the border. On the other side is Tibet. On this side is called Ladakh. So he is actually having this Tibetan lineage or Tibetan ancestries. And he has very nice features. So when he was sitting on the table in Brickfields in Mahavihara, when I saw him, I was very captivated by his features. So I took a chance to sit down with him and have a chat with him. And then I learned that he was actually visiting Buddhist Vihara, and he was trying to impress upon the chief to help him sponsor to set up a center in Ladakh. And he actually was doing some funds raising. So he was trying to get chief to help him. So as I talked to him, and I was saying, well, it's a very noble event, and I decided that I will help him to raise some funds through friends, and with chief's blessings at that time. And finally, of course, every year I managed to send him a certain sum of money to actually set up the school. And you notice those little girls, those little girls are the first batch of girls that was brought down from the mountains. They are actually from the nomadic tribes of the Himalayas, which means to say they move from place to place with their yaks and horses, with their sheep and goats. And they move from one plain to another, and eventually you will set up a tent. And they will live in the nomadic tents, and then after some time when the pasture is finished, they will move on to the next pasture and so on. So the children, if they are born there, then they have no chance for education. They will be following the nomadic tribes. And the girls especially, they will then grow up, they get married off at a very young age, and then they become mothers and grandmothers, and then after that they pass away. So this is their life. So being very compassionate, he said that we must help the girls especially, so that they have a proper education, and they can then grow up to be useful citizens or useful people or in the members of the community. And so his first batch was 15 girls. He took 15 girls from the various parts of the mountain, brought them down to the valley in Leh. Leh is the capital of Ladakh. And in Leh itself, he then set up a small mud hut. They call it a mud hut because it's made of mud bricks. And he started the hostel and the school. So the girls stay next door, and they go next door for their lessons. And he started the school there in that manner. Where is Ladakh? Ladakh is at the top there. Can you see? It's actually part and parcel of Kashmir. Kashmir is a very beautiful country actually. For those of you who have seen some sceneries of the Moon Lake. Have you seen the Moon Lake? If you go and Google, Kashmir Moon Lake, you can see the beautiful snow-covered mountains as a backdrop of a lake. And they all stay on the lake. And if you go and as a tourist, you actually book a Moon Lake boat to be your hotel room. So a lot of people go there for honeymoon. So that lake becomes a very famous tourist attraction.
But there was a war there.
Lately, about 2 months ago. So I will go to that after that. So it's actually located, and On this side, right, this side is China. This side is Pakistan. So it's actually on the border between Pakistan and China. And then, of course, this outcrop is being fought. Fought means half of it belongs to Pakistan, half of it belongs to India. So they had a lot of wars before. The war, what you call the attack by the terrorists, and after that they started shooting missiles at each other, and the plane went over. That one was only one of the skirmishes. They also have several skirmishes with China. Here, this part, near the Pangong Lake. Remember sometime about 5 years ago, the two armies, China and India, they had some skirmishes there. And they actually promised each other that they won't use guns. They will use clubs. So if they ever meet and fight, they cannot use gun. Wow, very gentleman. So they use clubs. But of course, they go and put nails on the club. That means the club got nails. So it's like the, what do you call, God of Thunder, with that kind of a hammer. And the Indians actually invaded the part where there's a line of action, they call it a line of action. It's an imaginary line that you don't cross. If you cross, then we have to attack each other. So India soldiers, I think, must be instigated by some powerful nations. We know who. And they actually attacked the part of China. And of course, the Chinese soldiers started to club them. And as they clubbed them, the Indian lost. The Indian was trying to retreat back. And when they retreat back, they must cross the lake. When they crossed the lake, many of them got drowned. So actually, they didn't die from the injury. They all died because they were drowned. So about 20 of them, soldiers actually died in that skirmish. So it's a very interesting part, and the weather of this place is actually very cold. In winter, it's about -30. And in summer, if you go in August or September, in the night it's about 10, and in the daytime about 18. So it's very comfortable. Actually, very nice to be there. And the snow is still on top of the mountains. So you still see snow-covered mountains in summer. And beautiful. After that, you will see some scenery from there. So this is when you are flying into Ladakh from Delhi. You see, if we go to Ladakh, we will actually travel from KL to Delhi by plane. Okay? And from Delhi, early in the morning, you take a 1-hour flight across the Himalaya, and then eventually land in one of the valleys within the Himalaya, which is called Ladakh. So as the plane lifts up and lifts the southern part of the northern part of India and enter into that peninsula, that jagged land, that is when the scenery will come up. And it's actually a beautiful sight to hold. That's why you have to sit at the side of the plane where the sun didn't shine in your eyes, because it's early in the morning and sun rises from the east. When the sun rises from the east, if you look into the east, you see what they call bright sun. So you can't see much. So you have to see the other side. So when you see the other side, you see all these mountains. So everybody will move to the side to take picture, and the plane will go sing it. Right? And as you fly across this, then eventually there will be this Ladakh Valley, because all the settlements are all in the valleys. And the valley is actually surrounded by mountains. So the plane got to navigate and then eventually lose their height. And then after that, as they approach the runway, they then have to quickly come down, land, and then brake, because in front is the mountain. Unlike in Bhutan, where in front is a valley. This one in front is a mountain. And when they take off, it's the same thing. When they take off, the moment they lift up, they have to corner already. They have to actually turn right or turn left to avoid the mountains in front of them. So it's actually a runway in the valley. So the pilots must be very skillful. And so far, so good. So far, so good. Nothing unfortunate has happened in Ladakh. When you land, in the valley. Imagine that you see the green part here. This is the valley, and then you see the mountains. And this can be in the middle of July, sometime in July. So if you ever sit in the Mahabodhi, premises, then you meditate. You will look at this scenery. Because the Mahabodhi campus will be towards the back here. And you are literally looking at this scenery. This is where we took the picture. Right? So beautiful scenery, isn't it? Yeah. And you get very nice. And the weather is nice, about 15, and then a breeze. There's quite a lot of breeze and winds. So imagine you meditate there, the atmosphere is so nice, guarantee sure enlightenment. So this is the valley, all right? So imagine this is a valley, and Mahabodhi is actually here, this part here. So what happened is when Bante Sanghasena, which the abbot was called, he went to see the Kashmiri government and says, can I have a piece of land in order to build my center? So I think the authorities then point at the desert. No, because if you look at this, most of it are actually nothing grow, no trees on the slope. Only near the river, this is the river, and this is the Indus River. Remember the Indus civilization? And this is the beginning of the Indus River, which comes down from the Himalayas and then eventually flow down all the way to Pakistan and come out through the Arabian Sea. And this Indus River is the one that gives life to the valleys of Himalayas. So he pointed out at one of the slope like this. So imagine the slope is on this side. There's one slope there and there's one slope here. He points to the slope and says, take how much you want.
How many acres?
So he says, I only need this only. So you draw one line, 200 acres.
Wow.
So Mahabodhi campus is 200 acres. But nothing grow lah.
We all need water.
No, not a single blade of grass. So, useful or no useful? Number two, no water. How are you going to get water? The water is in the river. So the only way to a river is to dig wells. But then you have to dig very deep wells. Right? So this is where the river flows. Right? The river is flowing here. And this is where the banks of the river is where all the settlement, the houses, the farms, the barley fields, then they grow a lot of barley. And barley is their staple food. A lot of things are made from barley powder, barley flour, and of course they have a little bit of wheat and millet. And it's also quite fertile, this piece of land, provided they have water. Remember, those early millions of years ago, India was actually part of Africa. India, the continent of India, was actually part of Africa. And that continent actually broke away from Africa during the shifting of the earth plates. And then that continent moved towards Asia. And Asia and Indian continent then meet, and when they are about to meet, whatever seabed that is in between will be pushed up. And that is where the two continents pushed up the land in between to become the Himalayas. So Himalayas was once upon a time under the sea. And that is the reason if you go there now, you see all seashells on the top of the mountains. You get all the pebbles, the round pebbles, water action, because seabed, you get all the water action, all the stones and rocks will turn into round pebbles. And all the pebbles will be layers and layers of pebbles, covered with a layer of mud, and then another layer of pebbles, and then covered with a layer of mud. And that's how landmass were built. And because they were under the sea, there was a lot of sea organism, sea life, which when it was pushed up, it became dry. And when it became dry, it became fossils. It became what we call organic waste. And organic waste actually is fertilizer. Very fertile. That's why sometimes you have all these organic seafood and all these things. You churn it and then you put inside your garden. Ooh, the thing will grow very fast. Because it becomes a fertilizer by itself. It has potassium, it has nitrogen, it has sodium, it has many minerals. So when this seabed was pushed up, unfortunately now, the sea is very far. So when the sea that carries the water, the wind that carries across the sea, they will then pick up the water vapors and water moisture so that they become rain. And then they will drop. And they drop it on the nearby coast and the inner part of the plains. As they move inland, the air becomes drier and drier and drier and drier. Until when they reach the Himalaya, no more. But of course, there's still moisture in the air, which haven't condensed. But when they reach that height of 29,000 feet, 30,000 feet, all this will then turn into snow. And it became ice. And that's why your Himalayan mountains is covered with snow and ice. But it's dry. There's no rain. You don't get rain, right, in the Himalayas. You only get drizzle sometimes. But of course, once a blue moon, you get what we call a cloudburst. Cloudburst means the moisture becomes too much that it actually turns into heavy rain. But it only happens once in maybe 30 years, 40 years, 50 years. And when they rain, it's really a downpour. And because the desert was dry all the time, all the soil was loose. So when the rain came down and mixed with the mud and mixed with the soil, it becomes mud flood. And the mud flood will then flow down the slopes and it will cover the village. And that's where they get a kind of a tsunami. They call it a cloudburst tsunami. And back in 2012, there was a tsunami in Ladakh. 2,000 over people died as a result, because the village was actually covered until to the rooftop with mud, and they can't run fast enough, so they were actually buried inside the mud. And also when the mud slides comes down, it also melted out all the mud bricks, because their bricks to build houses is also made of mud. So when that rain comes and washed the mud melted and the whole building collapsed. And 2,000 people died. So that time, we actually went in to help with some, emergency supplies, help them to rebuild. And eventually now, I think they are quite okay already. But hopefully the next cloudburst doesn't happen so soon. Right? So this is actually where you get barren land. And then only in this part, you get what we call the river and the valleys. And that's where the habitation and the village happens. Now this is the Mahabodhi campus. Right? Previously, not a single blade of grass grow on this patch of land. But now you see buildings. You see a lot of what you call trees. And they were all planted as a result of a water project that we Malaysians did for them. There was one contingent which visited back in 1998. And one lady from Sabah was actually very impressed with the work done by Bante Sangasena. Then he asked, what can I do for the campus? Then of course the Bante was so kind and say, okay why not you sponsor one room so that we can have prayers or like a shrine room. She was not satisfied. She said, no. Can you have a project which is big enough that can serve the whole campus? They decided, then says, which one would you like to do first? So the Bhante says, the problem that we have in this campus is water. There is no water. We have to transport water from the river. And it comes by trucks. So he says, okay, why not I sponsor the water project? So the ladies agreed, and she came up with about 2 million. 2 million, which is enough to engage a geological expert to come in and look at this, what you call patch of land, and see where they can dig for water. And so like oil drilling, they brought in the drill, and they drill down. When they went down to almost about 100 meters, boom, the water shoot up. They strike an underground subterranean reservoir. And where does the water come from? The reservoir, from the melting snow. The snow melt. Instead of going to the river, they went into the earth. And through the tunnels and all the, what they call capillary places, they then eventually end up in the underground reservoir here. We call it the underground water reservoir. And that reservoir apparently contains water that can last them 100 years. So it was like striking oil. And I remember the first video when they showed the strike. The drill just go, and then suddenly the sound roar, and then the pressure push up, and the water shoot up like oil. You know, when you drill for oil, it's also like that. And the water shoot up. So from there, what happened is they do a submersible, a pump, and then they pump it to a tank, and from the tank, eventually then water is supplied. The lady was still not satisfied. The lady says, I think you need to complete the whole reticulation system. Not only do you drill the water and get the water and put inside the tank, you must be able to fill up a reservoir also. And up on the hills, there are some hills there. So build a reservoir on the hill and pump the water to the reservoir, and from the reservoir then gravitates down to all your buildings. And they did the reticulation pipe. So water then comes to each and every one of the building. You don't need the truck anymore. And eventually it went over there. So water supply became resolved. But then in winter, all the pipes get frozen. But water pipe, when it's about 3 to 4 degrees Celsius, it still remains liquid, haven't frozen. So they make sure that the reticulation is, number one, wrapped with a certain kind of insulation material, bury it into the ground, cover it up with earth, and the temperature underground will be kept at 3 to 4 degrees. So therefore, there will be water traveling. Then when the pipe goes up to each of the building's tank, they will wrap it nicely so that the water continues to be at 3 to 4 degrees. And then it becomes water, and then it comes down. But winter is minus 30. You have water, how to bathe? You cannot bathe with your clothes on. So they created what we call a solarized bathroom. Solarized bathroom means, in winter Ladakh, the sky is still blue, although it's minus 30, and the sun is still shining. So when the sun shines through the glass, like a glass house, the sun will then heat up the air inside the glass, and the temperature will go up to about 20 to 22 degrees. Very comfortable. So you have solarized bathroom now. So they can actually wash themselves with the water and eventually bathe during the winter months. So they have water, they can also bathe. But the water is 3 to 4 degrees. You dare to bathe in 3 to 4 degrees. So then it says, what to do? Then we say, okay, the sun is strong, isn't it? Then use solar heater on the roof of the buildings. So the water will go up to the solar heater, heated by the sun, and then becomes hot water. And then eventually supply to the bathroom down there. So they have water at about what you call 30 to 32 degrees Celsius. In winter, you can see the smoke coming out of the water. So you have water, you have pipes, you have tank, and you have hot water. Wow, these people enjoy life.
Do they have electricity?
Solar, what they call panels.
Oh, don't have.
They have electricity.
Generator?
No, hydro. But in winter, they have a problem because the river are all frozen. Then winter, they have to switch to diesel. Diesel and what do you call?
Generator.
Or what they call petrol-powered generator. Then the electricity will come. So they have no problem with electricity now. Those days, they have only electricity in the night. Daytime, no electricity. But now they have electricity throughout 24 hours. And in the summer months, the hydro, because Indus River has a lot of water. So they actually dam up the Indus River and created a hydroelectric station. So they are actually quite comfortable now. The place is turning into more modernized. So you notice the campus has so many buildings. And that is when they decide to build first a proper hostel so that you can have more children to stay. And you build what we call proper classroom so that you can have a school. So they built a school somewhere, I think here. The school is somewhere here. Right? At the top, this is the hostels. This is the administration building. This is the hospital. They even have a hospital now. And currently what happened is they have actually privatized the hospital because they can't manage it. So they privatized it to the Sai Baba group. So the Sai Baba set up a private hospital there using their premise and giving them royalties for using of the building. Earlier they were operating with some specialists that have retired and then eventually offer something like a charity hospital. But it's not easy to maintain a hospital. You need a lot of funds, right? And then of course you have your school. The school not only serve the hostelites, they also serve the village. So the village also send their students there, and it's one of the better schools, and they teach in English. One book in Hindi, one book in Ladakhi, and one book on Buddha's teachings. So it's become a missionary school. Like when you go to our St. John, St. Xavier, you learn in English, and then you learn Bahasa Malaysia, and then you have to learn RK. RK means religious knowledge, and you have to go to chapel, right? If you are in those convents or in the La Salle schools. Here, same thing. You learn English, you learn maths and science, and eventually you also learn Hindi as a national language, Ladakhi as their local language, and then of course one book on Buddha and his teachings. So it is actually a Buddhist missionary school. And we have graduates already from the school. They are all the students who are very successful. Some of them have even gone to university, and they have actually become doctors and teachers. And one of them came back with a master degree and became the principal of the school, one girl. So it's a recycle, you know. You train them up, eventually they came back to serve. And then there will be two. One a doctor and one a dentist came back to serve the hospital. Right? And then a few of them returned back to become teachers. And also a few became administrators of the whole Mahabodhi complex. So at least they came back out of gratitude to serve. Although the pay inside this campus is not very much compared with government schools, compared with other established schools. But they actually get these people back, the children who actually graduated from there. Right? So this is the abbot that has, I think some of you have met him, isn't it? Yes, he came in the... He has actually traveled around the world. His chief support is actually from Malaysia, Singapore, Taiwan, now Vietnam, and of course Europe, mostly the Germans. Germans like this place. And somehow or other we realize that the Germans are actually very inclined to Buddhism. Do you know that the northern Indians and the Buddha and the Germans, they're actually from the same stock? They are all Aryans. The Germans are also Aryans. The Buddha, Sakya race. The Sakyas are actually Aryans from Central Asia, migrated to India. One group migrated westward towards Europe and settled in Germany. And they became the Germans. And that's why, remember the swastika? The swastika, where the Buddha, you see the Buddha image, you have a swastika. The Buddhist swastika is clockwise. But the German swastika you see on the plane is anti-clockwise. Why? Because the Buddhists used it first. So the German couldn't use it. The German used it the other way. But what is a swastika? Swastika means to be well. Swas means well. So they place it on the doors, that sign, to represent that this is the Aryan family. May all the family members be well and happy. That is the meaning of swastika. So the swastika is actually a symbol used by the Aryans. And the Buddha comes from the Aryans. And the Germans also come from Aryan. And their features are the same. Actually, the Buddha has a German tekok tau, you call it tekok tau. Tekok tau means empat segi punya. Empat segi, ada empat segi. Right? Because they belong to the Aryan stock. And they are the most intelligent. They are the most superior. That's why Adolf Hitler was trying to promote the Aryans as the superior race in the world. And he uplifted them. So you see the history then eventually came into play. So because of that affinity, they felt that the Germans felt that the Buddha was actually part of their culture. And some of them may be Christians, but they support the Buddha's teachings. Of course, many Germans have now become Buddhists and set up Buddhist centers. And one of the centers that support Bante is actually called Buddha House, the House of Buddha, in various places like Bonn, Berlin, Stuttgart. They have the Buddha House. And their group is actually very big. And they were the earliest supporters, even before the Malaysians went in. They were the earliest supporters of Mahabodhi in Ladakh. A lot of metta, a lot of compassion. And this little girl, is actually the daughter of one of the caretakers of the buildings. And at a very young age, she wanted to be a nun. At this time, I think she's only about maybe 6 years old. Right? But she has now grown up to be a very, young woman now. Right? And she actually became a nun for many years, but she has disrobed and actually went into the working force. That place is very suitable for planting, especially once you have water. Then you not only supply water for the humans, you can also supply water for the orchards. You can also have water for the vegetable farm. So on the campus, 200 acres can do a lot of things, as long as you put water in. But the soil is actually very sandy and desert-like. So water, when you spray water, it gets evaporated very fast because the sun is very hot. It stings you. The ultraviolet is very strong. That's why you can actually have sunburn if you are exposed to the sun in Ladakh. So we designed a way to put water into the soil by what we call drip irrigation. You know what is drip irrigation? It's actually through little pipes and it drips. And as the water drips, it goes straight into the roots. Drip and go into the roots so that it doesn't allow too much evaporation, so that the plants gets water faster. So when that happens, then the trees grow very healthily. So you have apricots. This is apricots. It belongs to the orchard, the tree at the back. Right? So when we go in July, August, or September, that is the apricot season. You will enjoy your apricots. And the apricots are sweet and very crunchy, but dangerous. you eat 4 or 5 can. But the moment you eat more than 4 and 5, berak chai. It's a very good dialectic. Yeah, it sort of like purge you. So you cannot eat more. But because it's so enjoyable, some of them went there, eat and eat and eat. After that, sorry lah, landed in the bathroom all day. You know? So that is not vomiting, that is purging. Because lao sai, you call it lao sai. So you eat too much. And when it's ripe, it's yellow or orange. And some of them very bright orange until it almost turned to red. But when it is green, then it's totally green. And so it's very sweet. So there's one tree called Charlie's tree. Here on the orchard, nobody can touch except me. So whenever I go, they will reserve that tree for me and my, what we call entourage. And we get to enjoy Charlie's tree apricots. Right? Yes? They are not Himalayas. They are actually normal, like in normal orchards. Not so nice. Here we buy one not so nice, a bit sour. And a bit siap. There, nothing of this sort. It's so crunchy and so nice that you can keep on eating. And the tree grows nearby only.
Import to Malaysia.
That's where we are actually encouraging them to do apricot oil. Because they have so much apricot, they don't know what to do. So we say, you do the apricot industry. And one girl from Penang has actually done that. She has actually imported apricots and brought the apricots to Penang. And actually did apricot oil. But if you go to Ladakh, they already started the industry there already now. They are quite advanced now.
Cooking lah.
They actually squeeze the oil. After the oil, and the oil comes from the seed. The apricot seeds, not from the apricot flesh. The succulent flesh will rot away or will dry up. So they become what we call dried apricots. And dried apricot also very good for you put it in your soup. When you boil soup, you throw some dried apricots in, very sweet. It makes the soup very sweet, like angzhou like that. You know? But the seed, they actually pit it out. And they have seeds, and then they will pound, and then after that squeeze, then the oil will come out. And you get apricot oil. Apricot oil is used for cosmetic. That's why there they don't use Max Factor lah and L'Oreal lah and all that. They use apricot oil, rub on their face, and all very cantik.
Can do for cooking.
Oh yes, apricot oil is oil, edible oil. You can actually eat it, you can actually use it. Right? So, when you are there, you see them producing, and before you come back, of course, you buy quite a lot of apricot oil. And everybody comes back with a backload of apricot oil. Of course, one of the favorite souvenir to be given away to all the visitors is a bottle of apricot oil. And that is their signature. Right? You see the apricots on the tree? That is on the campus. This is a campus tree, not from any of the other orchards. And when it blossoms, especially now is about June, July, already green already. And getting bigger and bigger. By the time, if we go in September or August, end of August. So my birthday is on August 26th. And it's always in Ladakh. And the children will be celebrating. So I get the reward from helping them by having my birthday celebrated there. Right?
What other fruits they plant?
Walnuts. Apples.
Apple lah. Oranges.
Apples. They call it Himalayan apples.
Oranges?
Oranges, no. Oranges need a Mediterranean climate. But apples can stand the cold. The apple trees can stand the cold. Because remember, minus 30, and the trees got to survive for that period of time. Even the apricots. But when come to April, March, April, that's where you have the apricots blossoms. Like cherry blossoms like that. The whole tree, all flowers. And it's actually like a cherry blossom. So if you go in April, and that is you see apricot blossoms. The whole orchard full of flowers. So they actually line up the campus road with apricot trees. And then of course they plant what we call the willow trees. They call it the polar trees, which is very straight, like Asoka tree like that, but the stem is very strong. And that is called a windbreaker. It serves as a windbreaker. So you put your building behind that walls of trees, then the trees will block the heavy wind from coming in. So this is when you visit Mahabodhi, this is the first place you go. The what do you call the...
Shrine hall.
Not the shrine hall. This is the guest hall. Guests. That's where they serve you your first cup of masala tea. They call it Ladakhi tea. Very sweet. So you have to ask, no sugar please. But very nice tea. But the milk they use is called yak's milk. Not cow's milk. Yak. Longhorns yak. Yak, because there in that country they grow yak. No? Those mountain cows, mountain buffaloes. So yak. If not, then you get from the, what do you call, sheep. The sheep. So only this kind of animals can survive that kind of weather. And this is the hotel that you stay on the campus. We call it the Global Family Home. Now it has about 42 rooms. Double bedded. You notice it's double bedded here, right? And some, of course, a bit luxury one. That one you call it the superior room. The superior room will be, a few of them will be with the master bed. The rest are all double room and some single. So that hostel was actually built by the Sabah lady also. So she is known as Ramona Lai. So if anyone goes to Mahabodhi, you will see Ramona Lai, Ramona Lai, Ramona Lai, Ramona Lai. So she's like a goddess in this place because she builds most of the... And her intention is that you don't need to raise funds all the time. You have this as revenue generating. So visitors who goes to Ladakh, they can actually stay there. Of course, you pay the rates and they charge you for food and boarding. That means you have dinners, your lunch, your breakfast in this global family home. This is the global family home. A guest house, like a guest house. So any guest that goes to Mahabodhi, they will stay there.
The currency they use? Rupees.
Rupees, Indian rupees. Of course, in Ladakh, they prefer USD. USD. Of course, USD you can convert. Because when we go there, we try not to change too much rupees. We change into USD. If cannot finish, we bring back. If not, then we donate as USD. So in the guest house itself, you see all the trees. These are either apple trees or apricot trees. So during July, September to September, you find that the whole place is like you are staying in an orchard. And the breakfast is served under the tree. So they don't have to serve fruits, you pluck your own fruits. And it's all within reach, right? And it's only meant for guests. So if you're a guest, you're entitled to pluck the fruits. So you just pluck, eat, eat more than 4, go to toilet. So this is where another view of the campus, the hostel, or the global family house, right? This is also another view. Very nice. It's in a few split levels. And then, of course, if you stay on the upstairs, then you have a nice view. If not, then you stay downstairs for those who cannot climb. Otherwise, you have to climb the staircase. But remember, in Ladakh, the air is very thin. And you are actually, in this place, is about 13,000 feet above sea level. So that means there's mountain altitude. And the moment you touch down, the plane land, because you are actually from Delhi, you fly. Then you land at 13,000 feet. Before you get down the stairs, the flight staircase, you're already dizzy already. Because not enough oxygen to your head. So you have to be very careful when you are walking, step by step down. And then when you go to the arrival hall, collect your baggage, you have to do it very slowly. The idea is not to chuan or pant, because when we, you need more oxygen. And since there's no oxygen, you will be deprived of oxygen. Deprivation of oxygen will cause spinning, throwing, and headache. And that is called mountain sickness, AMS. And if you suffer from AMS, acute mountain sickness, sorry, no cure. You have to go down already. Or you take the next flight down. So that's why we say for members, if you want to enjoy the trip, follow discipline. We tell you not to run, we tell you not to jump. You don't run and you don't jump. You just take things slowly. And sometimes to an effect that when the arrival comes, the land landed and the bus you to the terminal, you will then walk slowly. And sometimes the baggage, because Mahabodhi would have sent people into the arrival hall. They are so influential that they can actually enter into the arrival hall without passport. Because they know each other. And most of the guards and police, they are all Ladakhi. So they actually know each other. And some of them are members of Mahabodhi. So they actually goes there and help you to carry your bags. So sometimes we say those who are elderly ones, we say don't touch. The young ones will carry, or the Ladakhis will then carry your bags. And they'll push it up to the, what you call, car parks or the bus stops. And then they will load it onto the trucks. And then eventually the bus and the truck or the four-wheel drive will then bus you to the campus, which is only 15 minutes away only. So the campus is actually 15 minutes away from the airport. And now, because if it is tourist season, 6 flights a day will fly in and 6 flights out. Those days used to be only 2 flights. When I went in 1990, 2 flights only. Now you have 6 flights, and I think they're going to increase more. And now they actually built another terminal building with aero bridge, so that you don't have to take bus and come to the terminal. Straight away the plane will park beside the terminal, and then you just go through the aero bridge, and then you come down, and there will be escalator. So how modernized they have become, right? Compared with 1996, now it's 2025, almost 20 over years. They have already progressed so far. If you obey, everybody will feel that tipsy, that dizziness, but you are not into acute mountain sickness yet. You are just feeling the effects of a mountain. But if you pant more and exert more, then not enough oxygen, then the head will start to create signals to the body. Then the body will start to react. And when the body starts reacting, it's not written. So that's why all our, friends who followed, they actually observe very well. But at the end of the day, there will be still 1 or 2 who will have a little bit of acute mountain sickness. And that is when we ask the doctor to come. And we will then give oxygen. Otherwise, no need oxygen. But in our trip, normally we will have to go to another valley. In order to go to that valley, we need to go up to 18,000 feet, almost reaching Mount Everest. But no need to climb. 4-wheel drive. And all the way goes up, because it's a mountain road. You go up there, maybe you stop for about 15-20 minutes just to take picture, because snow covered. Take picture and eventually have a cup of tea. They also got a cafe there. You can have a cup of tea, cup of coffee, or sometimes a curry puff. And then after that, you quickly come down. So at that point, some people may need a bit of oxygen, because oxygen is thinner at 18,000 feet than 13,000 feet. So you then have an oxygen, breathe in, breathe out, you're okay. Usually no problem. So far we don't have any of our group who has to turn back and go back to Delhi and cannot enjoy the trip. Everybody lasts until the last day. Slight discomfort, but they lasted until the last day. 80 years old, no problem. 80 plus. There are many who are 80 plus have gone and happily come back. So they didn't suffer from any acute mountain sickness. Okay? So this is the tree, I think it's the polar tree. Very straight one, right? This is the breakfast you get. porridge, mixed veggie, potato, they call it aloo, eggs, chapati, bread with honey and jam. Gao liao lah. Some complain, no good. Then we chao kway teow for them. Because the cooks there are so familiar with Malaysians and Singaporeans and Vietnamese. They also know how to char kway teow already. Right? Because char kway teow, you use the dried kway teow. And then you soak it. Then it becomes kway teow. And then you fry it with eggs and of course no siham. No siham. Dried siham got lah, but no fresh siham. Alright, this is a breakfast. And this is also another breakfast. Sometimes they even got pastry, you know. Eggs, hard-boiled eggs, tomatoes, jam and bread, chapati. Okay lah, boleh makan lah. Won't die lah.
Curry or dal?
Curry, dal got. But that one in lunch and dinner.
Oh.
Breakfast, they don't eat dal. They don't eat chapati. Meat, not in the campus. Campus is all vegetarian. So, on the last day only, we treat you with meat. We bring you out to the Leh city and go to one of the Tibetan or Kashmiri restaurant. Then they have chicken. Their Tibetan deep fried chicken, they have lamb curry. They have mutton, but they have no beef. Because they're Hindu, a lot of Hindus, no beef. So you enjoy their what they call Tibetan food, as well as also the what they call Ladakhi food. Ladakhi food and Tibetan food almost the same. And they have this famous what we call like our sui kao. No? They call it sui kao. It's a kind of like dumplings. They serve a lot of dumplings and they dip it in sauce and then they eat like our Chinese dumpling. So they must be Tibetan influence. And remember, it's a border with Tibet. Nah? Those days they used to cross over like that with their caravans. They bring goods from Tibet, they come over this side, and then they bring the goods back. This is your dinner, lunch. Chapati, and of course end up with yogurt. Either yogurt or sweet yogurt and something like this. And a lot of vegetables. Remember, the campus has a lot of vegetables. You have what we call the greenhouse vegetable also. In winter, you get fresh vegetable. What do you mean by fresh vegetable? Means it's a greenhouse. And the sun comes in, it heats it up. And you can plant tomatoes, cauliflowers, lettuce, cabbage, no issue. But in summer, they grow a lot of vegetable and they have no fridge. And what is their fridge? Underground. They dig a hole underground, and because up there may be about 20 degrees, but underground is also still around 3 to 4. That is a natural fridge. So they put all their cauliflowers, their broccolis and everything, they put inside cabbage. And then they cover it up. They close that hole. Winter only they open up. Won't rot because 3 degrees. Yeah, so it's like a deep freezer, a freezer, and natural. And then you just take it out and you cook. What do you call this? Is they have noodles, a lot of noodles, right? Noodles, fried noodles, spiced vegetables, red beans, and then salad. A lot of salad, cucumber, tomato, brinjals. Basic lah, can survive or not? So that's the reason why I want to show you some of these pictures. So this is outside the Global Family House. So within the Global Family House, there's a dining hall. So we have your lunch or dinner, breakfast together. Right? I've got water. And during summer, the flowers also is in full bloom. And desert flowers are actually very beautiful, very colorful. So you have actually a very beautiful garden. And they built pavilions in the garden so that you can sit there. The air is so nice, about 15 to 18. And then you just read a book, relax. So we actually encourage people to actually don't go anywhere. Just go there, rest, enjoy your silence, go for your meditation, because it's a meditation hall in the Global Family House. That's where we do our morning puja. We ask all the participants that we will meet at 5:30. We go for morning puja up to 6:30. Then that means morning puja also include meditation. So puja and meditation. And then about 6:30 to 7, we then go for breakfast in the dining hall. 8 o'clock, we move out to all the village or to the, what you call, places where we want to visit, the monasteries, so on. So this is your bedroom. And every bedroom has a attached bathroom. And every attached bathroom has a heater. So basic also lah. And the bedroom is actually very comfortable. I actually brought 2 girls from the school. After they finished their school, instead of going for university in Chandigarh or Delhi, I brought them to study in Taylor's College. Hospitality management. When they go back, they become the the hotel manager. So they learn how to make the beds. They learn how to use the towels, the bed sheet, the duvet covers, and every morning they know how to make the beds. And see, like a 3-star, 4-star hotel, not too bad, isn't it? Of course, the girls was in great demand, so kena curi by other hotels, pinch. So they went to work for other hotels. So of course, Bante was complaining, we spend so much money, bring them here. Then I say, no lah, don't worry lah. As long as they serve Mahabodhi for 2 to 3 years, pay back already lah. You don't have to tie them for contract for 10 years, right? If they have served out of gratitude with that low salary, they need to earn money for their families. So we say, well, if they go out, you serve the Ladakhi industry, right? So you have bathroom, and all are WCs, they are not latrines, where you have to squat on a hole. Of course, the previous Ladakhi toilets are like that. You climb onto the platform, there's a hole in the middle, and then you squat, and the thing, boo, got someone. You will land at the bottom. So that is the early latrines, we call it. And so, when we go to the village, this is the hotel that is owned by one of our members, Mahabodhi member. It's called Namra Hotel. And this village is called Timiskang. And Timiskang is the birthplace of Bante Sangkasena. He was born here, in this village, which is about 1.5 hours from the Mahabodhi campus. But you have to travel through the winding roads and through some mountain pass in order to reach this place. And it's a very beautiful, set in the middle of a barley fields. So when you look out, if it is during, say, non-harvesting time, or when they're planting time, and it's all green, when it's harvesting, it's all golden color, right? This is the what you call the hotel.
Just now you mentioned the toilet. Do they have those proper wastewater treatment?
Oh yes, treatment plant.
Oh, they have.
But it's septic tank.
Septic tank.
They built the septic tank in the ground, and then they suck it out, and after use as manure.
Oh.
Good for what do you call planting vegetables. This is the natural recycle.
I thought they towards, how to say, direct to the river.
No. They go to a septic tank, and then when it dried out, they take the sludge. They take the sludge out, and then eventually use it for the planting. So you see this hotel, we actually are at the top of a hill facing the hotel. That top of the hill is called the Avalokiteswara temple. And then you look down, you see the hotel there, and that's where we stay. Beside the hotel, at the back there, is where there's a river. So at night, you can hear the river. And some of them, because when we go too big group, not enough rooms in this hotel, then they set up tents. Then you stay in the tent. The tent also got attached bathroom. Yeah, glamping. You got attached bathroom. The bathroom is inside the tent. It's so modern as that. And of course, the fields, you get all the fields. These are sometimes barley fields, sometimes onion fields, right? Chilies, they plant in the summer. This was a hill we looked down. Remember? On top of hill is the Avalokiteswara. So in the early morning, we will climb up the hill. And then eventually, we look down into the hotel. And then there is a school, which is set up by Bante. And that is a branch school of Mahabodhi. So we go there and distribute sweets, biscuits, and sometimes stationery to the children. And most of the sponsors' children are actually in the school. So some of the sponsors from Malaysia, when they sponsored a child, and the child happened to be in this school, then they go and meet the child and the family. The family will be there. All the children's family will be there on that day. And then eventually you meet the family, and the family will then prepare gifts for you. Apricot oil, dried apricots, and then you get to know the family that you are sponsoring. So Namra Hotel at winter is like this. This is winter, all white. But in summer, it becomes like that. And this is the place where they welcome you. It's an open, garden. And then you sit there, have a cup of tea before your room is being assigned. This is a tent. Right? Interesting. It's beside the river. So at night, you actually hear the river flowing. Some of them cannot sleep, sorry lah. But some of them actually enjoyed the rhythm of the river. And they actually sleep very happily. This is inside the tent. Double bed. Right? So sometimes a couple, we put them inside. The couple will stay inside this. And then, of course, we then go and visit some of the monasteries, right? And they actually worship a lot on Maitreya Buddha. Maitreya means the future Buddha. Because they say this Buddha, Sakyamuni Buddha already habis already, their cerita. So they are now waiting for the coming of the next future Buddha called Maitreya. So they worship a lot of Maitreya. Whereas in the campus, is Sakyamuni Buddha, because it's Theravada Buddhism. So, this is when you go, we take pictures with the monastery at the back. And of course, you know, in summer, this is what we wear. Not very heavy, you don't have to wear very, thick clothings. Right? Of course, if you are at 18,000 feet, then you see the mountain slopes are all covered with snow. So, you have to wear a little bit thicker, only for that period of time. And within the campus itself, there is a very high point. We call it the Horizon Hill, the Far East Horizon Hill. So that place is when the members will then, early morning, 5 o'clock, they will climb up that hill, reach up there and see the sunrise. And then after that, one of the teachers will give a Dhamma talk. And then you come down about 7 o'clock, breakfast is ready. So this is a group who then met up with Bante, this group from Malaysia, and this Nalanda group. I think there was one time, some of our members from Mahabodhi went together on the trip. And this is when we have our breakfast, right? And we celebrate Merdeka Day, 31st August, on top of the Himalayas. And we sing Negaraku. So this is some of the visits to the monasteries. This one also, different groups. We went there to, on some of the mountain tops. Right? And when you look down, it's actually a valley. And the valley is always green and beautiful. On top is all the mountains. And this was 2023, the most recent one. So actually we didn't go last year. This year we wanted to go. But 2025, unfortunately, all our plans is being scuttled because of the India-Pakistan. And also there's some rumors that there is a heavy vibration of earthquake. That's why there are people also who are not visiting Japan. Because the earth is in straight alignment in the solar system. And this has created a lot of energies and vibration. And if our earth shakes too much, that is when all the tectonic plates will start to move. When it moves, that is when earthquakes. So also because of that and the safety of the group, we actually decided to postpone the trip to 2026. 2026, if you are interested, then you can join us. So any questions until here? The main economy is actually tourism now. Ladakh, in the past, a lot of people don't go. A lot of Malaysians also don't go. Until we started all this program, then you get groups and groups and groups. And now, the tour agencies are organizing trip. When we go to Ladakh and walk around, we see some Malaysians looking good people. We ask, where are you from? He said, from Malaysia. How do you come? Oh, tour agency. They put program, Ladakh, 9 days, 10 days tour. And then they join the tour. Indians are now going in flights because very hot in India during the, July to September. So they go there for their winter, cold mountain resorts. So now a lot of tourists. And so that is also not so good. We get everywhere jammed up and get stuck. But because of tourists, because of the industry has improved, the roads are now better. They are now all blacktop. So when you travel on blacktop, you don't get, no. Otherwise, you need really massage at the end of the trip. It's bone shakers. Any other questions? We usually collect about, air flight should be about 3,000 until Ladakh. And the ground travel will be about, now is collecting about 750 US. 750 US per pax for your food, lodging, and so on. So if you times by, say, 5, it's 3,500, plus the 3,000 is almost about 6,500. It's still cheap. But because we all stay in the campus, most of the time we don't stay in a hotel. Campus are cheap and it's vegetarian. For about 10 days and 8 nights. Because one night you are actually on the plane and another night you are actually coming back on the plane. So 2 nights you are not having hotels. About 7,000 should be able to meet. No, you go to the village, Temesgang. And we always add one more, tourist spot. Because you are there also to, not only for charity expedition, you may want to also go and visit some monasteries and all that. So we bring people to one place called Nubra Valley. Nubra Valley is where Mission Impossible, one time, they actually filmed it there. And the valley is like a desert with a river flowing through. And that is a valley where you have camels. So you go for your camel ride on the sand dunes. So it's interesting. And then of course you stay in some of the resorts. So it's a one night out hotel. Then some trip we go to Pangong Lake. Pangong Lake is a lake where on the other side is China, this side is India. So you can actually see China. And you stay in tents. So you stay in Pangong Lake. It's also quite far. You have to cross through a few mountains. And the river, the lake is actually the highest freshwater lake in the world. Blue color. I don't know whether I have it here or not. Wait, this is a sand dune, sorry. This is a sand dunes where we sit on camels. Then of course the Pangong Lake will be, let me show you. Sorry, I can't show you so much because there's a lot of photographs and we don't have much time. Let me see whether I have a Pangong Lake for you or not. These are the monasteries on the mountains. This is Pangong Lake. Beautiful or not? So we stay there one night. And then eventually enjoy the lake view in the morning, in the evening when the sun set, in the morning when the sun rises. You have your dinner there, you have your breakfast there. all for 7,000, 7,500. Paradise, that means you are actually nearer to heaven. Nearer to heaven because you are up there. Okay, but this year, sorry, no trip. Next year, 2026, if you are interested, then maybe even within somebody, you can organize it, but you could be busy with your building. Maybe by then the building will be ready here. So if not, then go after the following year, 27. After the success of the building, now you enjoy a trip. Okay, thank you very much, and may you all be well and happy.